Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of All About the W. We are here with a preview for Group C of the Euros, the group which has Denmark, Germany, Poland, and Sweden. Obviously, I'd say this is a pretty tight group. I feel like Group C and Group D are kind of like groups of death, so to speak. Pretty tough one. I don't think you can really call this group at all. But Ash, how do you feel about this group?
I genuinely think this is the hardest group. I know some people will say it's Poland's first time, but it's a really tight group. All the teams have decent squads. Any team can beat any team in this group. I think in terms of the quality of the four teams, this is the hardest group.
Right, in terms of how they're matched, right?
How they're matched,
Uh,
not in terms of like the
yeah,
profile of the teams.
yeah, because I feel like in Group D, like you have Wales, which I feel like everybody's going to just like try and
Yeah,
batter
we
them.
will come to that when
Uh,
we
yeah,
do
we will come to that. But
Group
anyway,
D.
sorry, I digress. But Ash, let's get started, shall we? Let's maybe get started with Germany. Obviously, like this is a team that has, like they made the Euros final in
Yeah.
22. They have won this competition multiple times. Really, I think uh, some really big names, I would say, who are all kind of had a decent season. Maybe not like from a Champions League perspective, but definitely from like a league perspective. A lot of players that are moving to different clubs, etc. So, yeah, tell us about Germany.
Okay, so like you mentioned, Germany have won this competition 8 times. So like it would be unfair of me to call them a dark horse or an underdog. It just seems a little
Come on.
disrespectful. It seems very disrespectful. But but they haven't won a tournament since 2013, and that somewhat coincided with when the Wolfsburg team was a dominant force in women's football. So I just feel like, and of course, like you mentioned, they famously lost that final to England. But I feel like this is their time. Like this is a different team, and their coach Christian Wook, who's a former Wolfsburg midfielder himself, has got them playing like this energetic, high pressing German football. It's exciting to watch. And so, like, for me, they're definitely, if not like, they may not be like the favorites, but they're definitely in that extended circle of favorites to win the whole thing. I'm kind of excited for them in that sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think Yeah, I mean, I mean, you can't really count Germany out, right? I feel like they crashed out of the 2023 um, like World Cup, and they had a point to prove. They finished third in the Olympics. Like this. I feel like the stage is set somewhat. They're
yeah,
kind of hitting their peak at the right time. So tell us a little
yeah.
bit about Germany's recent performances.
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, they were third in the Olympics, and they were in the final in the Euros and stuff. So they've always just been there or thereabouts. And recently, they've just been murdering it. Like they beat Austria 6-0, Netherlands 4-0, like some cracking performances in the Nations League. And of course, everybody remembers that 4-3 performance against England, where both teams forgot how to defend.
Yeah.
But they've been unbeaten for 6 games now, so it's looking really good for them, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think hopefully, under the new manager, I feel like the team had lost its shine a little bit under Stecklenburg, and
Yeah.
maybe under Wirth, it's going to be better from like a tournament perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, like who are some of I think who do you think are going to be some of the game changers for Germany? Because again, that's a pretty stacked squad.
Yeah, it is a stacked squad. I mean, they've also had a few retirements. Alexandra Pop's retired, and she's like the third highest scorer for Germany. And
Yeah.
so certainly that's some experience that they'll miss. And obviously from the WSL, we're familiar with players like Nuskin and Nak and we know their quality. I would honestly look to Clara Buell and Jewel Brand for my excitement, because like they play this exciting like 4-2-3-1, and so the wingers get a lot of opportunity to contribute. And Brand is just like one of those best young talents out there. But both are like relatively young. I think 24 and 21 or something like that. They're both quick, they're both creative. So I expect a lot from this pairing. So I'm quite excited about it.
Yeah, Eula Brand famously, or every WSL fan wants Eula Brand in their team, and
Yeah.
of course, as always, Leon came and signed her, so she's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely, Clara Bull is somebody. She's a big game player as well. Leah Schuler is another player who I think, yeah, Germany is a fun team. Man, I had forgotten about Germany.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had
I mean,
forgotten about
like
Germany.
I'm kind of like low key rooting for them, like in this tournament. Like, just the way they play and stuff. It's very exciting, and I'd like to see an exciting team and not England win the Euros.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's Germany done. Let's move on to Denmark, shall we? Obviously, again, like I feel like another team that struggles in like major tournaments a little bit. It's yeah, I feel like they have a few star players,
Yeah.
but there are some weaknesses in different parts of the pitch, and that kind of ends up being their downfall. And we obviously saw the news recently that the men's team wore like women's team jerseys in support of the women's team for the US. Like during the international break, I can't even remember who they were playing, but that was a really nice show of support.
Yeah.
But Ash, what are we thinking about Denmark? Where are they at?
Okay, so like you said, like they've obviously been associated with pedigree in women's football, but like they last Euros failed to make it out of their group stage. So they go into this with, I think, a little bit of pressure, because considering the team that they have, ideally they should, in most situations, I mean, not in this particular group, but in most situations, they should make it out of the group. And so to go into a difficult group like this and to already have had the pressure of not making it past the group stage previously, I think there's a lot of pressure riding on this particular Danish team, personally. And, considering their recent performances, they've only. So they're a little confusing, okay, Denmark, because they've only lost to Spain in the qualifiers, but they've had a very disappointing mixed bag of performances in the Nations League. So, like, they lost to everyone in their Nations League draw except Wales. And they did manage to beat Italy 1-3, but they went on to lose 3-0 to Italy in the reverse fixture. And even that 1-3 was just like, it didn't feel like it was something they could sustain. It was just something that it was a one off.
Hmm.
So it feels very like, I don't know where they're at.
Yeah, yeah, that is a weird like bunch of performances leading up to the Euros. And I honestly don't know how much to take away from like Nations League, because
Yeah, yeah,
they just happen so randomly during international breaks.
yeah.
So much of it depends on which players are fit and who's in the mood to play football or whatever.
Yeah,
But
where I
anyway,
like there's a lot of rotation as well, because like managers are trying to figure out for big tournaments who to play and stuff. So they're giving them chances in the Nations League and stuff. So
exactly.
yeah, it's just one
Yeah,
of
but
those.
speaking of, like, tell us the most important players for Denmark in your opinion.
Okay, so they're led by former Chelsea forward Penla Harder, whose quality you would obviously know. And for me, like obviously, there's this channel favorite Sarah Homeguard, who's in this squad. So that's one to look out for. Unfortunately, her twin did not make the squad. There's a Real Madrid player, Signe Brun, who I rate highly. She's got 9 goals in the league this season. Another WSL player to look out for is Catherine Vehe from Crystal Palace. Obviously, she had a bad league season, but I genuinely feel like she's a really good defender, and like will be looking for her redemption arc. Another player that I'm really fond of, maybe because of her personal story, is Nadia Nadeem, who's also back in the squad, probably to add a bit of experience to that forward line, possibly off the bench. So yeah, there's a bunch of exciting players there.
Yeah, that is a lot of exciting players. I think, yeah. I actually did not know that Karen Honga did not make the squad. That is news to me. She was injured for the most part of the season, so maybe yeah, it's a like probably like a selection decision, right?
Yeah.
Like you want your fittest players to be available. But yeah, all right. So that's Denmark. Let's move on to Sweden. Um, Sweden are actually a team that they do really well in major tournaments.
Yeah.
Usually, what they do is um, they have all these giant players and they score a lot of set piece
Giant
goals.
players.
They score a lot of set piece goals, you know. Like Amanda Illistead almost won the Golden Boot of the World Cup.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, she's one goal away from winning the Golden Boot. So, yeah, I mean, Sweden generally do really well in major tournaments. It's something that they thrive in. So, like, how do you think they're going to fare at the Euros?
I reckon that they're going to do really well. Like I think they can possibly. So they will obviously be looking to better their last Euros performance, having lost in the semis to England, who became obviously the eventual winners. But definitely they've been regularly getting out of the group stage. So there's definitely an expectation that they will do so this year as well, despite the really tight competition. Yeah, I think they also like come into this group with like a little bit of confidence, having just beaten. So Denmark's also in this group, and they just beat Denmark 6-1. So I'm sure they'll be looking to replicate that result. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
makes me think it's a joke, man. I'm telling
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know what to make of this result, because Denmark and Sweden, in terms of on paper, these teams are not a 6-1 difference.
Yeah,
Uh, but anyway, like despite that result, in a game where they were amazing, there's not much daylight like between their nations league campaign and Denmark's. Like considering that they had two unlikely draws against Wales and one slightly more likely draw against Italy, although they beat Italy in the reverse fixture at home 3-2.
okay.
So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, clearly this Nations League team group with like Wales and Denmark and Sweden and Italy was not the best group.
Yeah, it's a circus. That's what it is. But obviously, we have a lot of like Swedish players who play in the WSL. We're familiar with a lot of them. So, who do you think are going to be not just from a WSL perspective, but in general? Who do you think are the players our viewers need to watch out for?
Okay, I think Arsenal fans will kill me if I don't mention this. So I'm going to start with saying we have the ultimate big clutch, big match final player, Stina Blackstenius.
Yes.
Who we know obviously from the Champions League final now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she'll be riding high on that confidence. Hopefully riding high on side. Um,
Yeah, on yes.
we also have the very now infamous Joanna Carnerid, who might be looking for some form after that terrible season. And yeah, she's joined by, of course, my one of my personal favorites from Chelsea, Natalie Bjorn, who I think will be key to the defense. Fans are, of course, and like she also has it in her to score an occasional goal. So there are goals all over this team, and like fans, of course, I think are most concerned with the injury update from Fridolina Rolfo, the Barcelona player, because so this is like a really drama ridden saga, okay, because we know that she was suspected of having a foot fracture, um, but during the Nations League. But then she went back to Barca, and Barca are saying that there's a damage on her ligament in her left ankle. But they're sort of like they posted it as Barca would not like to see Fridolina Rolfo playing in the Euros. And I'm just like, what do you mean by Barca will not like to see? Like, Barca does not get to decide if she wants to
Yeah,
play for her country, she can very well play for her country. So
exactly.
it's just
And
one of
like,
those.
if somebody like Rolfer, like she's somebody who does pick up injuries, like she is very injury prone, and like she's like 32, 33 years old. Like, who knows if this is going to be her last major tournament, you never
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like you are never going to say no to an opportunity to play for your country unless it's something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
really serious. So, and I feel like I'm not sure if Sweden are also particularly blessed in that area of the pitch with talent. So maybe they just wanna keep her, and yeah. And also, I thought Barca wanted to sell Rolfer. Sell Rolfer. Like, what is going on? Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
I do not want to waste my brain space with Barcelona drama. Let's move on to Poland. uh, Poland, obviously, probably the underdog in this group, right? They've obviously kind of last ditch efforts. They've qualified for the Euros, um, but they do have a star. So tell us about Poland and their road to the Euros.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm like really rooting for them. It's even though it's like their first appearance in the tournament, I think that they have what it takes to pull off an upset here and there, and that's all you really need in a competitive group like this. Um, and like obviously in the Nations League, they're in that second tier of the nations. You know how the Nations League is organized.
Yeah, group.
But so they haven't been up against any quality opposition. So it's really hard to say what Poland's uh, threshold is in terms of form. But you can only beat what's in front of you, and they've managed to be unbeaten in the Nations League with 5 wins and a draw, beating Romania, Northern Ireland, and Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Hmm.
Govina. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can make of beating Bosnia and Herzegovina, but it is what it is, and they have a few, good players. Let's see how it works out for them.
Yeah, tell us about the good players.
Yes, of course, the player
Players who have
everybody's who
players
else
who have
like.
not won 5 Champions League finals.
Yeah, yeah, but everybody's eye will be on this Polish and Barca superstar, obviously Eva Payor. This is her moment to shine, and a goal or two here and there, and voila, Poland have achieved an upset against these more storied teams and have qualified in their group. Because I reckon you only need like one win and a two draws to get through this group. Like generally, I believe that even one win and one draw could get you through this group. Um, so yeah, Eva Payor for sure, and like she now has to prove that she can carry a team, because it's just been too many finals where they're like, oh, Eva Payor was missing or Eva Payor uh, bottled it or whatever, and you don't want that tag. It honestly, most of those were not her fault, but you don't want that tag sticking to you that you are not a big game player, especially if you're a striker or like a forward in general. Um, so yeah, definitely Eva Payor is there to be watched out for. Some other key players include centre back Paulina Dudek from PSG. There's midfielder Tanya Pawelek. Please do not judge me on these pronunciations. Who captains Eintracht Frankfurt. And we have this really young goalkeeper called Natalia Radkiewicz, who's keeping West Ham's Kinga Shemik on the bench. So I expect big things from her. So yeah, those are the players I'm looking for.
That's awesome. Well done on the pronunciation. I think that's something. I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's one of those things where it's not whether you sink or you swim, it's just that you stay afloat. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's where our name pronunciations are at. But
Yeah,
let's
for me,
wrap
it's
this.
always
Yeah,
like whether the J is a J or it's a Y. Like that's the biggest, that's the biggest one.
yeah. I think you need to pick up a map of Europe, and you kind of can like
Yeah.
separate sections where the J is a J and the J is a Y. Or in some cases, J is like a her. I don't know, an H.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
but all right, let's wrap this up, shall we, Ash?
yeah, yeah.
Give me a prediction to this group. Who's getting out?
For me, I think it's probably if I'm going by like pedigree, I'm going to go Germany and Sweden qualify. But it could literally be any two teams. So I'm going to watch out for an upset in this group for sure.
Right, Germany and Sweden. Okay, yeah, I can't argue with that. I think it's going to be Germany, Sweden. I feel like there's going to be another round of exciting Pernilla Harder, Magda Eriksson derby, which is always fun. But ultimately, yeah, I think on quality, I would say I would agree with you. All right, so that brings us to the end of our preview of Group C of the Euros. Um, do join us tomorrow or in a couple of days. I don't know, but do join us soon for our review of Group D on this channel. Until then, bye bye.